Hi everyone, my name is Kristina Smith. I am the director of the Georgia Building Trades Academy, and I'm here with Michael Render, also known as Killer Mike.
Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing?
So glad to have you here with us with Youth Build and to talk about the great program that we have here.
Yep.
So let's just get right into it.
Yep.
In the community, we need programs like this, a pre-apprenticeship program.
Yep.
Tell us your thoughts of the community and how the Youth Build program can help the students.
So first, I just want to thank you guys for having me. You know, it's not often a guy named Killer Mike gets invited into educational spaces, but it seems to be growing. But I want to thank Randy for inviting me out first, getting me introduced to you and Brother Kabir, because this lady on this side of my chain was a sharecropper's daughter from Alabama. She went to trade school. She became a nurse, married a man who drove dump trucks and moved corn whiskey. But they wanted me young to know about trades. So they sent me out with a group of neighbors, say every weekend for a couple months. I went out with an electrician, I went out with a plumber, went out with a guy who laid floors and carpentry and stuff. Now all of them returned with the same. So there's Betty's a smart kid. We like him a lot. He's probably never going to be good at anything with his hands. but every time I went out, I enjoyed the experience. I have an uncle who is who's autistic, but he was brilliant with trades. He's never been without a job. Me, I've been without jobs a couple of times, and I feel like it's because I didn't really focus in and get a trade. So part of what I want to do as an adult is make sure that young African American men in particular, men, women, and other people of color got an opportunity to participate in the American dream. And one way you do that is participate in building infrastructure and taking care of the things that government is going to need and people need on a daily basis. I've never argued with my plumber about pricing. I argue with my lawyer all the time about his hourly bill. I've never argued with a carpenter, a window put in, the guys who install my windows, because I need to have those things done. So to me, there's a huge vacuum to be filled. Our girls out of my community are going to school, and they're graduating school. They often graduate with degrees, and they graduate with some debt too. They gotta find men to marry. The men that they would have married in my grandmother's generation would have been tradesmen, would have been men who did things like carpentry work, floor laying, electricians, things of that nature. But since we got away from that focus in the past 20, 25, I would say 30 years, they took trades out of high schools and things of that nature. We're not graduating the young men that we should out of high school. We're not then funneling those young men to matriculate into trades programs, and we're not producing good partners for our girls. We're not producing productive young men that will make sure we have crime-free communities, because an idle mind, of course, is the devil's playground. I don't have a trade, I'm not making money, I don't want to work fast foods. Why not break in a car? Why not try to steal a car from a gas station? Because it's easy. Versus giving 9 to 18 months of your life to give yourself to a trade and apprenticeship program to begin a pathway to continual learning. So I'm involved with this and want to see trades grow in my city, state, and beyond, because I believe that it is one of the cornerstones for saving our community in terms of black people. Trades are not jobs that are like McDonald's or Burger King.
No, they're not.
These are jobs where young men and women can come out making a significant amount of money. They can then marry partners and help them get rid of that college debt. They can then be two-parent households where we raise successful children. We can then have a tax base in the city where working class people, working class don't mean poor. It just means I go to work and clock in, but you gotta pay me.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because doing this for a while, running Youth Build programs, I run into a lot of parents who, they want to push their young people, you need to go to college, you have to go to college. And then I say, hey, we have this program here where you can enter into a trade, whether it be an electrician, a carpenter, sheet metal worker, whatever trade. We give you an overview of the trade, and from that point you will be able to decide what fits best for you. And once they complete our program, they get direct entry into a trade of their choice.
Absolutely.
However, I get a lot of pushback from parents saying, oh, we want them to have that college degree because they are afraid that their young person may not earn a sustainable income. What can we say to those parents to encourage them to tell young people to try our program?
We were sold propaganda, right? And it's not a bad thing. We grew up, we loved the Cosby Show, we loved a different world. Many of us were aspirational and went to college. Many of us left college with good degrees that we don't work in the field of and burden with debt. So first, let's be honest with ourselves. Next thing, let's just say sending a child to college is a prestigious feeling. I know, because I sent my daughter to college twice. I sent her the freshman year twice. After the first year, I knew that she didn't want to do it. I made her go back. I could have used that $20,000 and sent her to trade school, or sent my daughter traveling to enrich herself to come back. Now, my son, after he came up a few years under her, he says, I don't want to go to college, I want to be an electrician. He graduates this year. My thing is absolutely, because now I understand that I should take you into where your actual interests are instead of forcing you for vanity reasons to go or for feel safe or having been a subject of propaganda. Doesn't mean college isn't good. I went to Morehouse myself. Doesn't mean college isn't great for those that go to specialized degrees that are still trades. If you go for lawyering or engineering or doctoring, you're going to come out with some debt, but you're going to come out with a trade that people need. If you come out with a degree in philosophy, maybe sociology, things of that nature, you're going to have to find a space within teaching or in specialized. That doesn't guarantee money like going to be a plumber. Does not guarantee income like going to be a welder. Does not guarantee income like being a carpenter or a brick mason. Those things are for the next 20 years in Georgia going to be what we know is growing. They're going to build a port down to Savannah.
Yeah.
Amazon's constantly building factories now. They need people to do everything from lay cement to put the wiring in the walls in. So what I would say to parents is trust the things that you have to depend on. You're going to call the carpenter or a plumber more times this year than you probably call someone with sociology advice or need to see a psychologist, even though we probably need to sit down with therapists more. I would just say to parents that we start to have to trust the process that worked for us before. There's no shame in being a tradesperson. You can be as smart as you want to be a tradesperson. It gives you more time to read, actually. You can still go to college. You can master a trade, make a significant amount of income, take some time off, or go take online classes in the actual college. Morehouse offers online college now. So you can take a young man, that would graduate, say, in APS school that may not have the funding to cover all of their college degree. You can put that person on a pathway to a trade within 18 months to 3 years. They're making enough money to significantly take care of themselves and to make sure they choose to be married, and then be able to take online courses. And I think that as parents, we have to be comfortable with that. We know a lot of times the people that have done well out of our community from going to Bachelor's of Arts degrees colleges. But we're going to have to start understanding that people like Herman Russell, who was one of the most dynamic builders in this city and in the Southeast and in the nation, although he went to college, what enabled him to go to college was the fact he had a shoe stand first, then he had a sheetrock business, and he was able to build a business while still a student. And I think we can encourage our boys to do that. I think that they can take a couple of years, go to trade school, get on a direction, and should they choose to pivot to college, I think it'll be a more successful run then because they won't be worried about money.
And I totally agree with you. With our program, you get an $18,000 scholarship.
Wow.
And that covers your boots, all your personal protective equipment. If you don't have your GED, we'll help you get your GED. It helps you get your MC3, which is the multi-craft core credential, which provides direct entry into a union. And people say, well, what is it about a union and our program? A lot of times you have to do interview. You have to interview in front of someone to get into the job.
Yeah.
We have full support of our union members that come and speak to our students. And our age group is 16 to 24.
I told someone that I told them I was on a call with a whiskey brand this morning, and they started a trades program within the brand. Should we go forward with them, there'll be a trades because they knew the work we were doing. Mm-hmm. They're going to add a program that allows in their state an 18-year-old to study directly under 18 to 24, because I told the kids we work with 16 to 24. Mm-hmm. Well, 18-year-old will be able to work with a master liquor distiller, which is a trade.
It's a trade.
To learn the trade. And the mythology, my grandfather used to tell me that a black guy taught Jack Daniels to brew whiskey. And I thought, oh, that's a great wives' tale. My grandfather, he sold with liquor. And when it got confirmed to be true, Nearest Green, who now has his own whiskey, that little black guy in the picture, that is the tradesperson that created one of the most powerful liquor brands by simply knowing. Now, he wasn't given the opportunity because he was a black guy, but what he did was help build that company, and it enriched him as an individual. But imagine what his brand is going to do. So even in terms of that, I never thought of that as a trade, but that's a trade. The people who have to make the barrels that the liquor sits in, all of that is a trade. And we have an immense opportunity before us. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so excited. I just don't know what to do because they took trades out of APS, and by doing that, we really crippled a section of our community. And to know that you guys are now doing this, and to know that these guys get funneled directly into a union, which workers' rights, like in a right-to-work state like Georgia, being a part of a union is very important, because companies like Publix will come here and they'll just do what they want, and you won't have no say in how much you get paid, how many hours you work, and how you can be fired. It's very difficult to just fire a tradesman off a job, because then you don't have people to do it the next day. You have unions negotiating on your behalf. So I'm from a Teamster family, so I am also very pro-union and very supportive. So I'm glad that these young men are learning about that early, because again, these are going to be the husbands and the fathers in the future of our community, and I feel very good about this program because of that.
So let me ask you, so since we're talking about 16 to 24-year-olds,
Yeah.
getting this word out to those young people about the trades.
Yeah.
What's the best route to get them excited about being in a trade?
Well, I know when I ask my friends that are tradesmen to come out and speak to the young men and talk, I ask them to not dress in uniform and to dress how they dress when they're off. And when they're off, they wear as much jewelry and expensive frames and drive nice cars as I do. They hip as slick as everybody else. And that's important for me, for the young men to see, because, you know, we wear, Dickies uniforms for fashion, right? You might get an embroidery on it, but you know, you're used to your dad wearing it if your dad works a regular job, and you're not as impressed by that because you see it so much. But once you see, you know, I always used to like watch the tradesmen when I was young. I was like, he dirty, but that gold chain is very shiny. I mean, you know, it's like when an athlete is running, you see the chain poking up. So for me, it's important that our boys see us successful. It's important that they see you in a nice car and you in a nice house and you dress nice, because these things do matter. Humans like to decorate themselves. I don't care if we're in the middle of Sahara somewhere. Humans will find something and put in their ears to adorn themselves, and it's important that we see that. One of the tradesmen I know, BJ, was saying to me that in Chicago, the guy on their block that he looked up to was, I think, a plumber and a tradesman, but he always had a nice car. You know, always looked nice. So that's part of it. I think another part is making sure that the young men who are on the forefront in terms of athleticism, in terms of music, in terms of having any notoriety, start to big up those people. You know, we need to big up our homies. My friend Bear has a homie who's a supervisor, well, actually a high-ranking guy at UPS. He hang out, kick it with us, but then Lay like, I got to go to work in the morning. Now Lay's house is big as everybody else. Lay has just as nice a car. His kids have just as good a life. But it's because he dedicated himself to the consistency of working. He dedicated himself to the consistency of showing up in the blue collarism. And out of that comes great reward. Tradesmen I know have sent children to college. They've created doctors and lawyers based on their salaries, being able to afford to put their kids through school. Tradesmen I know have underwritten programs, like athletic programs that have created some of our pro athletes, music programs. You know, our studios aren't studios if people don't come in and build them soundproof. I love when I show up and the people that are building my studio look like me. You know, I love to show up in a camera crew, which also has to be unionized. Formal trades are being built over these studios. The people look like me. Not everybody ain't got to be me, but enough of them look like me that I know that families are being taken care of. So for the young men, the way I think we get it out is we create a public campaign. I think we go hard on radio, from that's 94.5, V103, 107, because that's where they are. I think that we push to get some type of program back in school, even if it's a private industry candle-like program where you get credit for the summer. I learned how to fly a plane in aviation mechanics because of Jim Berto at George High School. I didn't go to George. He came and recruited me from another school and says, versus going to summer school, this is what I'd like you to do. I'll pay you to learn aviation mechanics. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to do that again. And I think if we do it, the output in 4 years is going to be dramatically different than some of the output. I think we can raise graduation rates. I think we can send people directly into high school. And within 2 to 4 years after graduating high school, I think what we create is a stability in our community amongst young men from an economic standpoint that we don't have now.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about graduating. So even if you've graduated and you decided college wasn't the route, you're eligible for the YouthBuild program.
That's dope.
And if you decided school was not for you and you dropped out of high school, we'll help them get their GED.
I met a young man, got here in 2 weeks with you guys.
2 weeks.
2 weeks came. Which means he was already smart. School was just boring him.
Right.
And he came and he had purpose. He said, "This is what I'm going to do." He went to school with my son.
Really?
Yeah, he's on path to be an electrician. But I was so impressed by that because people don't often credit children with understanding the decisions they make. Right? They don't. It's not like I want to drop out and cripple myself. It's just that I know this isn't for me. I know I don't want to participate in calculus class today. I want to get straight to the business of being in business. The young men that I met out of your program were already gardening themselves, already building things themselves, already had made a decision that the street ray isn't the way. And if we approach our young men in particular from a place of respect and intelligence, you don't get reverence just because, man, they're going to revere you till you graduate. But from a respectful, intelligent place, I think that it'll be easier to get them to buy into this. So I was very proud of it. I was proud like I was his uncle. I was like, 2 weeks? Well, I couldn't do nothing in 2 weeks. I couldn't lose 2 pounds in 2 weeks. Got his GED in his own path already, and already being an example for kids like mine. For kids like my own son. So I'm very proud of him.
So being that we serve the city of Atlanta, we try to make sure we do serve outside, but we are targeting the Atlanta city communities, surrounding communities here.
Absolutely.
Are there any other programs that are like this YouthBuild program?
This is unique. The governor, I met with the governor, made a lot of folks mad, but I didn't care because what I wanted is to make sure that as a governor, he's investing in our community in particular by helping to grow tradespeople and black business in particular. Those are two things, big things we talked about. But he hooked me up with the head of state, the head of trades in states in terms of our technical colleges. And we are trying to work on an even bigger program that emulates. So I'm going to be pivoting to you guys, you know, for advice and counsel, because I would like to see what you guys are doing for Atlanta and some surrounding areas. I'd like to see it in Waycross. I'd like to see it in Valdosta, Brunswick. You know, I'd like to see it in North Georgia as far as we can go, because regardless of race, color, or creed, we are Georgians. 35% of this state is African American. And we know that unemployment rates are nearly double with our boys. So we need to make sure we take care of ourselves. So taking care of Atlanta is a big investment to me. But beyond Atlanta, there are a lot of just working class folks and poor folks that if you give them the opportunity to have a trade, that port gets built by Georgians in Savannah. If you give them an opportunity to get a trade, the next factories that are going to go up in South Georgia and North Georgia are going to be built by Georgians. And I would rather Georgians benefit from the building that's going to happen than have to import workers that would then take that economy out of here.
Well, if you tell that governor, we will definitely, the Building Trades Academy will definitely come into the colleges and teach the curriculum and partner with colleges so they can get the hands-on training that they need. Because I think sometimes when you get to college, I think one thing is also unique about our program, they get that hands-on. It's nothing like
That's
going
the way
in,
you learn,
firing up those welders, or actually going into a home and fixing something. One of the goals we want to do is to be able to help some senior citizens in the community.
Absolutely.
What benefit do you think for Atlanta youth would be to be able to give back to their community as far as community service with their trade?
Well, you learn it, all right? So you want to learn. Say the city develops a program that says, when Andrew Young was mayor, I remember Andrew Young did a program on the west side that went through the west side and just simply did upgrades to some of those houses that had been there from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Habitat for Humanity under Jimmy Carter, former President Jimmy Carter, has been one of the most successful programs ever. And Habitat for Humanity uses amateurs. You just show up like, hey, I'm ready to work. You got gloves? You got a man? Hold this wall. While we, there's no reason that we could not identify young men from neighborhoods, that young men and women that are from neighborhoods that could then participate in a public school program as early as high school, partner with Georgia YouthBuild, sponsored by the state, and then to go do our own self-repair. So not only are you repairing and helping people, the wealth that you get is the experience of learning. There's nothing like doing it. So you've done it in a classroom. Now you're going to get to weld, hammer, nail outside the classroom. So now when you come out of the other side of the trades program, you have an opportunity to tell your friend, well, I got 10 grand saved. I got 10 grand saved. Now we're going to go buy something together. We're going to build that thing together. We're going to rent that out. That's a property. Now we're going to go buy a multi-unit property. And what you have an opportunity to do because of your trade is to become a business person. And because of you've become a business person, you can do more philanthropic work, like going out and doing things like prepare for the old, take care of young people, help nurseries and schools that may need it. And it turns into a secular thing where you are putting out exactly what you're putting in. I'm putting in my time and resources to help my community. People have put in time and resources to help me, including Georgia YouthBuild, the state of Georgia, and the city of Atlanta. And now I have an opportunity not only to be a business person in my community, but an opportunity to give back philanthropically to the people whose work helped me become more experienced.
So you mentioned the young ladies. So young ladies in construction. So we train them in construction.
My cousin's a welder. Paid.
Yes.
Paid, man. Paid. I was like, you're a welder? She's like, yeah, I'm a welder. I was like, getting paid. She's like, it's amazing what welders make. I had no idea. And she's a young woman that I think started first in healthcare and just got tired of the conundrum of seeing sick people and not really being able to help us, wanted it and pivoted to a trade and got her welding license and is doing very well now. So when I talk trades, oftentimes you'll hear me talk young men, but it's just because our boys aren't graduating. They aren't graduating high school and they're going to college. But our girls are going to college and going to trade school and doing well and graduating out of both and doing well. So yes, absolutely. I'd like to push as many women into trades as would go, because women tend to be perfectionists about stuff too. They ain't gonna leave no nail unhammered. They ain't gonna leave no forearm properly laid, painted and otherwise. So I love to see our sisters in there doing the same thing, because oftentimes women work incredibly hard on jobs and they don't get what they're worth. And many times those jobs are service-related jobs, and they're dependent on the goodwill of people to tip or not tip and things of that nature. And that's fine, but many times these women are taking care of children. And I would rather you have a 40-hour job that could be a tough job, but you're going to be paid in a way that your weekends still belong to you and your children, that you still get vacation, or that you can build your own company from products and goods and services.
So thank you so much for joining us today, and Michael Render, also known as Killer Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'd love to see you back here.
You have me. You can't get rid of me. Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm
with
gonna
you.
hold you to that.
All the way, Chris. I'm with you all the way.
So if you would like to know more about the Georgia Building Trades Academy, you can go online to GABTA.org, select Youth Build, and hit apply now. And we'd love to hear from you. And until then, we'll see you guys soon.
Love and respect.